What's going on? Welcome to the 2021 edition of the Off the Schneid preview series, where I'll be going over all 32 NFL teams, breaking down their roster, schedule, giving you a record prediction, as well as helping out with some betting tips. If this is your first time on the channel, hit that subscribe button, and if you like what you hear, go ahead and smash that like button as well. Don't forget to check the description for links for the Off the Schneid social media and interact with me directly. I want to give a massive shout out to OurLads Scouting Services and OurLads.com, as all roster and depth chart graphics are straight off their site. If you've never been, go check them out immediately. I use their site for all NFL, fantasy, and betting purposes, and there's a link in the description for their site. Again, do me a huge favor and hit that like and subscribe button, but enough of that, let's get to your favorite NFL football preview. Taking a look at the Cleveland Browns, we'll start a quarterback like we do every single time. We got Baker Mayfield here, obviously their former first overall selection a few years back in 2018. I'm calling it a career season last year, just because of the INT total. 26 touchdown passes, 8 interceptions. His rookie year, he had 27 touchdown passes. Maybe it was 28. I can't recall off the top of my head. 27 or 28 touchdown passes, but he had, I think, 14 picks. And they were definitely a losing team. So I think that last year was a career season for Baker, and I think that there's a very, very strong potential that he improves on those numbers this year, gets over that 30 passing touchdowns mark, and then might run in one or two sort of thing on the ground. But I think he's very much kind of queued up to have a career season next year, and he's obviously proven that he is the guy. There's no questions asked. He had a rough sophomore campaign, but that happens with quarterbacks sometimes. So he's absolutely the guy of the future, present, everything. 26 years old, very good quarterback, very, very, very solid quarterback there, I think. Case Keenum's obviously still the backup. That's a fantastic backup for this offense. Obviously, he's comfortable with Kevin Stefanski and Alex Van Pelt. He knows the offense. He's played in the offense. He's done well in the offense. So quality backup guy. Case Keenum's made a pretty good little career for himself, being a sometimes starter backup quarterback, and I think that that's going to continue for the next however many years. Move over to the running back position. They're in a great spot. Pretty much, honestly, they're in a great spot everywhere. This is a very extremely well-built team. In my opinion, there's pretty much zero holes, I should say, on this team. Zero weaknesses. There is one quasi weakness, and I'll get to that and we'll kind of go over that, but it's not at running back. Nick Chubb is obviously still there. Very, very good running back, 1,000-yard rusher in only 12 games last year. I think he's very much right around there again, depending on if he plays all 17 games. There's a very good possibility that the Browns might be sitting players at the end of the season, so we'll see how that looks, but obviously they're extremely comfortable with Nick Chubb in the backfield. Kareem Hunt's still there. I thought he would catch more passes, if I'm being honest. I think, maybe with Nick Chubb being out, he obviously had to run the ball a little bit more. Maybe that was it. Maybe he takes that uptick this season. And, once I get to the weakness that is the only real weakness on the Browns, he might be able to fill in there and help out with catching more passes, maybe playing a little bit out of the slot sort of a thing. But that kind of will depend on the health of Nick Chubb. And potentially how some other players progress. D'Ernest Johnson's still there. He's probably going to be, punt and or kick returner this year. And then a depth guy as well. Demetric Felton's going to kind of push him on those roles. I like Demetric Felton quite a bit. I wanted my Cincinnati Bengals to pick him. 6th-round pick for the Browns. That's a fantastic pick. He's played both wide receiver and running back in college. I think he converted from wide receiver to running back, I believe. But either way, he's a quality depth guy, can do a bunch of things. He's sort of built in the same, I'm not going to say mold as Kareem Hunt, but he can do similar things as Kareem Hunt. Probably not run the ball quite as hard, that's for sure, but he can catch the ball out of the backfield and maybe play a little slot as well. And Andy Janovich is still there as a fullback. He's one of the better in the game, in my opinion. I think that he's one of the best fullbacks in the NFL, probably top 5, I would call him. I mean, Juszczyk's up there. Alec Ingold is up there for me. But Andy Janovich is absolutely in that at least conversation with Alec Ingold, I would give him. Move over to the tight ends, which are obviously in a phenomenal position. Phenomenal. Austin Hooper's still there, and he's your more traditional tight end, you know, potential hand in the dirt, potential extra blocker, that kind of a thing. Can catch the ball, absolutely. But he's a much more traditional tight end than your other options that you have in Harrison Bryant and David Njoku. So they got a little bit of, I'm not going to call it depth. They got a little bit of, different guys that can do different things. And that's, again, going to contribute to the potential weakness that is on the Cleveland Browns. So let's address that potential weakness that I've been kind of alluding to. And it's the wide receiver position. I do not think that it is an actual weakness, just because they have other guys that can plug in and fill in. I'm going to say it right now. I'm not a massive believer that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to come back and be extremely effective. Broken leg, horribly broke his leg, right? A few years back, obviously, with the Giants. Comes back, is still a quality player, has a 1,000-yard season. That is extremely, extremely, extremely impressive for him to be able to do that. Extremely impressive. For him to tear his ACL on that same leg, it's just, it's extremely concerning to be able to come back for that. I honestly just don't see it. I don't think he'll ever be a 1,000-yard receiver again. Not that he needs to do that to be effective, that's for sure. I'm not saying that he has to be that for this team to be successful, but there's a lot of people that are thinking he's going to have some huge bounce back season, and maybe he does. Supposedly he looks great. I've seen workouts, he looks great and everything like that, but there's going to be a time where your body just doesn't respond to what your brain is telling it to do. The things that he's been able to do throughout his career, if his body just can't do it anymore, it's not his fault. It is what it is. And I'm not trying to hate on Odell Beckham Jr. over here at all. I'm not saying he's a bad teammate. I'm not saying he's a cancer, anything like that, because I know that people are going to think that that's why I'm hating on him, and I'm not hating on him. Realistically, it's actually extremely tragic, in my opinion. We might have been robbed of one of the best wide receivers to ever play the game because of injuries that are just completely out of his control. So it's extremely unfortunate. Realistically, that's how I'm looking at it. I just don't think he's going to be able to do that with those injuries. I just don't think it's going to be doable. I think that he's going to want to be able to do certain things, and his body is not going to respond the way he wants it to. That's just how I see it. And again, maybe I'm completely wrong, but we'll see, and time will tell. Jarvis Landry is obviously still there, and he's fantastic. I am a huge Juice Landry fan, massively. I think he's extremely underrated. One of the better slot receivers in the game. Again, just overall, extremely, extremely underrated. And I think that there's a potential that he becomes that 1,000-yard receiver this year again. Rashard Higgins is a guy that I really like. I really like Rashard Higgins. I think that he can take that step as well and potentially be that number 2 or 3 option. Probably number 3 option. Realistically, I'm not so sure that they have a number 2 option at wide receiver, if that makes sense. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a bit of a field stretcher. He averaged over 21, something like that, yards per reception, 21.7 to be exact. Only had 14 touches, receptions, but had 304 yards with 2 touchdowns and a 75-yard, long play. I'm not sure if that was a touchdown or not, but it was a 17-yard play. So that's very impressive. Realistically, as a rookie as well, that's pretty impressive. 6th-round rookie. And then they bring in Anthony Schwartz, who's an absolute track star. So here's what I'm saying. And Cordell Hodge, I'll finish it off with KhaDarel Hodge. Sorry, I do like KhaDarel Hodge as well. So here's the whole thing with the way I look at this offense for the Browns. The wide receiver position could be looked at as a bit of a weakness, but there's so many options on this team, especially at the tight end position. I look at Harrison Bryant, who was my tight end 1 coming out of the draft last year, 4th-round pick for the Browns. I hated the landing spot because they had Austin Hooper, they had David Njoku, but he's one of those guys, and I've been talking about this position a lot in these things. It seems like there's a new position kind of taking form in the NFL where it's this move tight end, big, tall, could be a wide receiver sort of a thing. Jacob Harris drafted this year. Kyle Pitts drafted this year. Obviously, Harrison Bryant. Dan Arnold, you could throw in that mix even. Potentially a guy like Jalen Hurd. Potentially a guy like Colin Johnson on the Jags. You know what I mean? These big 6'5", 6'6" guys that maybe played wide receiver in college. They can move around. They're mismatch nightmares. It's kind of a different breed of, you know, athlete, I suppose, or player that's coming out, and there seems to be, and maybe I'm wrong, but it's something I'm paying attention to. It seems to be there's kind of a new offensive weapon, you know, taking shape as we, you know, as it evolves, and we're kind of watching it evolve as we go, kind of a thing. And I think that the Browns are a good kind of barometer for how that could look with a traditional type of a tight end in Austin Hooper and a move guy like Harrison Bryant. I think Harrison Bryant can have a very, very good season this year if they use him that way. And I honestly think that they will. He had pretty good numbers as a rookie last year, 24 catches, 238 yards, and 3 TDs. If you look at rookie tight ends and how they traditionally, you know, function, that's actually a pretty quality season. I think those numbers are better than Cole Kmet, who plays, you know, should play more, especially with the competition in Cleveland. And yeah, I think that Harrison Bryant could be one of those guys that takes a step and gets towards that 600-yard mark. 600 yards, maybe 5-6 touchdowns. Nothing crazy, but it's continuing to evolve, I think. So we'll see. There's the offense. We'll touch on the offensive line quickly. I got to get through this because I don't want it to be too long here. Offensive line is fantastic. I don't want to spend too much time talking about it. It is absolutely fantastic. They were top 6 in the league in sacks allowed, which is obviously something you absolutely want to do in today's NFL. They got depth. You know, Jedrick Wills and Jack Conklin might be two of the better bookends in the league right now as far as the tackle position is concerned. Joel Bettino is phenomenal. Probably going to be a Hall of Famer, at least, you know, if he keeps going. He's probably, you know, a couple more seasons, he's going to be looking like a Hall of Famer. Wyatt Teller and JC Treader are there. Nick Harris I like as a depth guy. James Hudson comes in the 4th round. They're fantastic on the offensive line. Absolutely fantastic. One of the better units in my opinion in the league. So there you go. There's the offense. Nothing changes coaching wise. Kevin Stefanski, Alex Van Pelt, and Joe Woods. Very good coaching staff. Kevin Stefanski's been kind of groomed for this for, you know, since he was probably still in college, to be honest with you. And now here he is running a team and being very, very successful doing it. So we'll move over to Joe Woods. Defense, they weren't, you know, they were middle of the pack in the league in getting after the quarterback. They did lose some guys as well. Obviously, Olivier Vernon, Olivier Vernon is gone. Adrian Clayborn's gone. Larry Ogunjobi's gone. But I think that this is a better unit all around because of the acquisitions in the offseason, bringing in Jadeveon Clowney, who's actually pretty underrated somehow. I know his sack numbers aren't quite there, but if you look at all his other stats, you know, forced fumbles, I think he had a pick 6 last year, tackles for loss, that sort of thing, quarterback hits. So he is changing the game. It just might not exactly show up on the stat sheet the way that you would think that it would for a guy like that. But he is changing the game, and he will continue to. And I think this defense is extremely better with him. They also bring in Takk McKinley, who I really, really liked coming out of college. I really, really did. He didn't quite take that step with Atlanta. He had a very good rookie season, and then kind of just stayed stagnant, you know, and didn't progress. And I'm not saying that it's his fault. I'm certainly not, because I'm not so sure that he fit that defense. You know, the way that he can play, if that makes sense. I think he fits this defense much better. And, you know, if it wasn't for Jadeveon Clowney coming in, I think if he was on the other side of Myles Garrett, I think we could be, you know, thinking about a career season for Takk McKinley. So we'll see how it ends up, because they're going to have to share the field a little bit. Myles Garrett's not coming off the field. Jadeveon Clowney probably isn't either. But Takk McKinley can be that rotational guy if you need him. And that's all you really need. They don't need another pass rusher, you know, with the guys that they have in the interior. Jordan Elliott is fantastic. Andrew Billings, former Bengal, is very good. They brought in a very good veteran in Malik Jackson, and then drafted Tommy Tagai in the 4th round this draft. So the line looks great. They can stop the run. They can get after the quarterback. They can realistically do it all. And then, before this offseason started, linebacker was very much a weakness on this defense. They absolutely addressed it. Taki is not bad. I don't mind him as a player at all. Anthony Walker comes over from the Colts. That's an improvement. Jacob Phillips, they really like, a 3rd rounder last year. He's there as well. They drafted Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah in the 2nd round this year. I think that's a fantastic pick. I think he should have definitely been a 1st rounder. And for them to get him in the 2nd is extremely good value. He's probably a starter. We'll see. Mac Wilson's still there, still very young. Malcolm Smith, a former Super Bowl MVP, is still there. Played very well for this team last year. Tony Fields comes in a 5th round pick. I really liked him out of the draft. Elijah Lee is a solid veteran. Curtis Weaver I really liked in his draft as well. This is a good, unit. There's tons of depth here. Tons of depth, and they're going to play in the preseason, see who wins the battles, see who fits where, and it just gives them tons of options, especially with a guy like JOK. He can play a little bit of safety, drop back in coverage. He can do a lot of things. It's going to be very interesting to watch this team overall, offense and defense, because they have so many options in so many different ways. So it's going to be, the Browns are going to be tough. Browns are going to be tough to beat. Secondary is absolutely fantastic. The safeties are phenomenal. John Johnson III comes over. He's very, very good. Grant Delpit should be fully healthy. He's very good. Ronnie Harrison's still there. Who's, now a depth guy, sort of. I don't know if he ends up starting over Grant Delpit. We'll see. And then Richard LeCounter, I'm not sure how to say that, 5th round pick comes in. He's going to be a depth guy as well. So they're phenomenal. Even with just those 3 safeties, that's fantastic. The corners were in a very, very good spot, and they addressed it, again, like it was already in a pretty good spot, and then they brought in more. Troy Hill comes over with John Johnson from the Rams. Greg Newsome was their 1st round pick. Grady Williams is obviously still there. Denzel Ward is obviously still there. MJ Stewart comes over from the Buccaneers. That's a phenomenal get. They are just absolutely stacked everywhere. And this is a very, very, very good team. I might have been a little conservative with what I gave them for a record. But we'll see. I'm going to go through the schedule. So let's go check it out. Let's see what I gave them record wise for 2021. 12-5, not world beaters. Like I said, I think I was a little bit conservative. I do think that there's actually more room on the high side. I probably should have been at like 14-3, something like that. I think 10-7 would be a bit of a, not quite a disaster, because I think that probably still gets them in the playoffs, but I think some things would have had to have gone wrong for them to finish only at 10-7. I do think that this is the best team in the division. I most likely will be picking the Browns to win this division. I will pretty much definitely be betting on them to win the division. 2nd best odds, 2.66 to 1 on your money for them to win the AFC North. I do very much agree with the odds that are being given here. I do think that, you could say that the Browns should be the favorite. You definitely could say that, but they just haven't won the division in some time. So that's probably why the odds makers are looking at it this way. And the Ravens aren't, a pushover, that's for sure. And then the rest of the division, they play each other tough. Obviously, the Battle of Ohio. I do think that the Browns sweep my Bengals. They are a much better team, but those are tough games. And against the Steelers, it's not easy either. The AFC North teams play each other very, very hard. Not that any other division doesn't, but it's a bit of a thing here, especially with the interstate rivalry there. So I probably will be picking the Browns most likely. I think they are the best overall team. I think there are some holes on the that can be exploited on the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think that that's necessarily there with the Browns, and with their ability to give you so many different looks on offense. I'm not looking at their wide receivers as a weakness, because there's, the tight ends, the running backs. There's a ton of options in what they can do, right? So I really do like this team a lot. So let's start it off in week 1. On the road against Kansas City, I'm giving that win to Kansas City. Obviously at home. Open the season, fans in the stands, completely packed. Arrowhead is a tough stadium to play in, especially because it will be absolutely packed. The fans will absolutely be rabid. The Chiefs are a very, very good team. I think the Chiefs get that win in week 1. Then I think they go on a very big run. Houston Texans are not beating the Browns. Chicago Bears are not beating the Browns. And I don't care if they're at home or on the road on these ones. They are not. On the road against the Minnesota Vikings, that's a tough game. But it's a bit of a revenge game for Kevin Stefanski. They're overall the better team. I do see these teams being built in similar molds. Obviously, there's some parallels there, but the Browns are just better everywhere. That's kind of just what it is. They're just better everywhere than the Vikings. I do think the Vikings have a good team. They're a better team this year, but I think the Browns go in there and get that win. On the road against the LA Chargers, I mean, that's not an easy, Browns are going to win 100%, because that offense is very dangerous, and Justin Herbert is a very good quarterback. So if they can get, realistically, they're going to have to get out way ahead of the Browns and be up by, at least 14 points early to have a shot at winning this game. I think the Browns get the win. I really do. But it's not set in stone. It's kind of a low, high, my type of a game, right? Then week 6 against the Arizona Cardinals at home, they absolutely beat the Cards. I think they're just, again, a better team overall. That team can be exploited in the passing game, I should say. And with this offensive line and Nick Chubb, I think they're still going to be able to run the ball. I do think the Cards are going to be good against the run, but this is a bit of a different animal sort of a thing. So I think the Browns can absolutely get that win at home. Short week at home, Thursday night game against the Broncos. They get the win. That's a very good team. The Broncos are a very good team, but offensively, the Browns are better. Defenses are very comparable. The Broncos defense is very good. But again, in Cleveland, and with the difference in offenses, I think the Browns get the win. Then their first division game against the Steelers at home on Halloween. Browns get that win. I think the Browns sweep the Steelers and the Bengals. So don't, get on me if you're a Steelers fan. I think they sweep both those teams. And I'm going to go home and home split with the Baltimore Ravens, because they're the two best teams in this division, and I don't think it's particularly close. So they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers on Halloween. They beat my Bengals on the road in week 9. On the road against the New England Patriots, that's a tough game, very tough game. Unless Stephon Gilmore is not on the Patriots, that changes it a fair amount for me, especially being in Foxborough. I think that's a tough game, one that they absolutely should win, in my opinion. I think the Browns are a better team overall. It's just that the defense for the Patriots is very, very good, and it's in Foxborough. But if the Browns can score early and be up, like I said about with the Chargers, if the Browns can be up early, it's pretty much over, because I do not give them a shot to, come back in that game. The Patriots I'm talking about. Week 11 at home against the Lions, they're going to absolutely trounce the Lions and get that win. On the road against Baltimore right before their bye, I think that the Ravens get that win. It's a primetime game, Sunday night game. I think the Ravens get that win at home. And then fantastic bye week for the Browns, week 13. That's a fantastic bye week for this team that is absolutely a playoff team. Even like I said, if it's, a worst case scenario type of thing, I still think that they're a playoff team. I think that they probably win this division. And then coming out of their bye, they get that revenge game right after, after a bye against Baltimore. That's a fantastic time to play a team that just beat you on the road. You're playing in your house, you're at home. I think the Browns get that win. Then against the Vegas Raiders, I think they absolutely pummel the Raiders and get that win. On the road against the Green Bay Packers on Christmas Day, that's interesting. I think that's a very tough game for both teams in Green Bay in December. Not that Green Bay is an incredibly amount colder than Cleveland, to be honest with you, at that time of year, but I mean, that's a tough game. Again, low, high, my, very winnable for the Browns. They're both playoff teams in my opinion. So that's a tough one. That's one that, yeah, low, high, my, but, it's a toss-up game. On the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they get that win, sweep the Steelers. Then at home against my Cincinnati Bengals. The only way my Bengals have a shot in that game is if the Browns are sitting players. They might be locked in. They might not get that first round bye. The Chiefs are probably going to be looking at that. I mean, the Browns are definitely going to be in contention for that, for sure. So if they are looking like they're getting it, they're absolutely going to be sitting guys. If they're not, or they might just be locked into the 3 seed or 2, 3, 4 seed, whatever it is. They might be locked in and then just sit guys because you don't need to win. And the Bengals probably aren't in a playoff position, so that game won't mean a ton. So that's the only way my Bengals win, if I'm being honest. So there you go. I think the Browns are absolutely a playoff team. I think they, in my opinion, are the best team in this division. I'm picking them to win the AFC North. I'm very interested to see how this operates with their pass catchers. If it's Kareem Hunt, Harrison Bryant, Hooper, and Njoku, those younger wide receivers, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Anthony Schwartz, those kind of options. I just think that there's so many options with this offense, and it's going to be interesting to watch with that extremely good defense as well. So yeah, the Browns are absolutely dangerous. They're absolutely Super Bowl contenders this year. Yeah, it seems weird saying that about the Browns. Absolutely it does, but the Browns are very much in the hunt for a Super Bowl, at least appearance and potential Super Bowl win this year in 2021. So we'll see. But let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. There's your breakdown for the 2021 Cleveland Browns.